I remember the morning I lost my office job, staring at our overdue bills in disbelief. My wife, Lucy, was still asleep upstairs, unaware of the avalanche of debt threatening us. Determined to keep us afloat, I scoured freelance websites, finally landing 2 remote positions. The plan was grueling, editing marketing copy during the day, providing customer support for a tech firm at night. Lucy insisted we hire a nanny for our newborn daughter, Layla, to prevent domestic chaos. So Teresa arrived each morning, quietly tending to Layla while I locked myself in the study, juggling phone calls and deadlines. In those early months, exhaustion became my daily companion. Lucy offered little support, instead questioning why I couldn't earn more money. Whenever I mentioned feeling overwhelmed, she rolled her eyes. She seemed more occupied with nights out than with Layla's midnight cries. Meanwhile, Teresa patiently handled diapers, bath times, and countless lullabies. Though Lucy insisted on having a nanny, she rarely showed gratitude for Teresa's work. Still, I kept pushing, convinced my efforts would restore harmony. I envisioned us as a united family, with me bearing the financial load until we found firmer ground. But Lucy's coldness only deepened further. Lucy's cruelty emerged in small jabs at first. She'd remark on my fatigue, calling me weak for complaining. I wrote it off as stress from new parenthood. But her words grew harsher, especially on nights she returned late, reeking of unfamiliar cologne. I asked subtle questions, yet she dismissed them with derision. I wanted to trust her, though I sensed betrayal looming in her half-hearted excuses. Still, I focused on Layla and my deadlines, telling myself everything would stabilize once finances improved. Deep down, I felt Lucy slipping away from me, but I clung to the hope of reconciliation someday. Father's Day arrived, and Lucy surprised me with dinner reservations at an upscale restaurant. I dared to believe she wanted to mend our frayed bond. The atmosphere felt strained, though she wore a stunning dress that momentarily revived memories of our happier past. Midway through the meal, she leaned forward and declared, "No woman would ever want you if you didn't work yourself ragged." Shock thundered through me. She elaborated, "I was nothing more than a wallet, a man without appeal." Humiliation twisted my stomach while nearby patrons pretended not to notice. I realized she had no respect left whatsoever. I paid the bill in silence, driving home with rage simmering inside. Lucy scrolled her phone, indifferent. We arrived to find Teresa cradling Layla, offering a relieved smile. Lucy brushed past them without a glance. I gently settled Layla into her crib and retrieved the manila envelope from my desk. I'd prepared divorce papers weeks before, suspecting Lucy's fidelity was gone. Now, her disdain validated my decision. I handed her the documents in our bedroom, heart pounding. She sneered, promising a vicious legal battle. My resolve solidified. I vowed never to forgive her betrayals, only to seek rightful closure. Lucy left early the next morning, taking clothes but leaving Layla. A curt message claimed she needed space. Anger welled as I watched our daughter coo innocently. Over time, Lucy bombarded me with contradictory messages, threats of legal action, followed by pleas for reconciliation. I refused to bend, focusing on Layla's well-being. My lawyer assured me Lucy's abandonment would strengthen my custody case. Teresa supported me, working extra hours, providing emotional comfort. At night, loneliness gnawed at me, but determination fueled every breath. I recalled Lucy's vile remark that no woman wanted me and let it fire my will to fight. Lucy's lawyer soon filed demands. Hefty spousal support, full custody, the house. Their narrative painted Lucy as a victim forced out by my neglect. I countered with evidence, phone logs, receipts, Teresa's testimony about Lucy's disinterest in motherhood. Each revelation chipped away at Lucy's facade. She fumed, accusing me of cruelty. I simply held firm, preserving texts where she insulted and demeaned me. Court dates loomed, but I kept my focus on Layla, whose laughter eased the mounting stress. Late at night, I'd review old photos, questioning if Lucy had ever truly cared. Unforgiveness hardened into a shield of resolve. Lucy's bitterness intensified, manifesting in hostile texts. One day, she accused me of poisoning Layla's mind against her. I refused to engage, forwarding each insult to my lawyer. Teresa noticed my tension and quietly offered support, cooking meals and managing household chores. We formed a cooperative rhythm, prioritizing Layla's stability. Sometimes I caught myself watching Teresa with admiration. She was gentle, kind, a stark contrast to Lucy's venom. Still, I hesitated, wary of complicating our dynamic. Betrayal had taught me caution, yet I couldn't deny Teresa's impact on our home. My revenge grew simpler, living better without Lucy's tyranny. Another court date arrived. Lucy's lawyer pressed the same tired allegations. I was overworked, unfit to parent. My attorney countered with detailed schedules proving I balanced Layla's care despite 2 jobs. Lucy squirmed as witnesses confirmed her neglect. The judge ordered a temporary arrangement granting me primary custody with Lucy's visitation supervised. Her outrage filled the hallway afterward, venomous accusations spewing. I felt the weight lifting, knowing the truth was surfacing. At home, Teresa placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, wordlessly acknowledging the victory. Layla cooed in my arms, oblivious to the battle raging to protect her future. Lucy's visits became sporadic. She'd cancel last minute or show up late, sometimes hungover. Each incident reinforced the court's perception of her instability. Meanwhile, I trudged through bills, legal fees, and endless deadlines. Yet, an unexpected happiness crept in. Mornings with Layla felt brighter without Lucy's constant criticisms. Evenings often concluded with Teresa's warm presence, sharing light conversation over tea. I remembered Lucy's vicious statement, "No woman would ever want me," but Teresa's empathy contradicted that cruelty. The defiance in me burned hotter. My sweet revenge lay in building a life untainted by Lucy's scorn. Forgiveness never entered the equation. At the final hearing, Lucy sat rigid, her bravado diminished. My lawyer presented a mountain of evidence: financial records, nanny logs, character references. Lucy's testimonies tangled in contradictions. The judge frowned at her negligence, especially toward Layla. In a decisive ruling, I secured primary physical custody. Lucy was granted limited, supervised visitation. Her demand for spousal support was denied outright. Leaving the courtroom, she spat threats at me, eyes burning with fury. I felt an almost eerie calm. Our marriage was over, my resolve unbroken. The gavel's echo lingered as I stepped outside, determined to give Layla a loving upbringing. In the following weeks, Lucy's hostility arrived in waves of nasty messages. She insisted she deserved the house, demanded more money, and blamed me for her ruined reputation. My replies remained factual, filtered through my lawyer. Freed from her physical presence, I discovered surprising relief. Layla blossomed, babbling happily, unburdened by tension. Teresa grew indispensable, expanding her role as caregiver. Nights found us quietly chatting about life, our vulnerabilities, and the future. I sensed a mutual closeness forming, yet I proceeded gently. Wounds from Lucy's betrayal were still raw, but each day I felt myself healing, forging a new direction. One afternoon, I found Lucy waiting on our porch, unannounced. She demanded additional visitation. When I suggested following the court order, she ranted about her maternal rights, ignoring how she'd abandoned Layla before. I maintained a calm exterior, refusing to let her manipulation sway me. Her final words dripped with venom. "You'll stay alone forever." I shut the door, chest tight but unwavering. In the aftermath, Teresa brewed chamomile tea, handing me a mug without a word. The hot steam soothed my frazzled nerves. Lucy's threats felt hollow now, powerless against the walls I'd built to protect my child. As the divorce neared official completion, I reflected on our history. Lucy and I once laughed, planned a family, envisioned a shared future. Now the memory felt distant, overshadowed by betrayal and her stinging contempt. I wondered if I'd missed red flags or allowed love to blind me. Guilt surfaced sometimes, but Layla's smile reminded me that not everything was lost. I'd gained a stronger sense of self, forged in adversity. Late at night, I'd pace the quiet house, remembering Lucy's vicious insults. They no longer stung, they fueled my determination to embrace a life free from her toxic grip. In time, Lucy's interest in Layla waned further. She missed scheduled visits, barely bothering with excuses. The few times she did appear, she scrolled her phone instead of engaging with our daughter. Supervised or not, it was obvious she lacked maternal instinct. I documented everything, preparing for the possibility that she'd demand changes again. Yet, I felt pity mixing with my anger. Lucy had become a bitter husk, incapable of joy. Even so, I refused to absolve her. She had inflicted deep wounds, and I valued myself too much to feign understanding. My priorities lay with Layla's healthy upbringing. Financially, I inched toward stability. My freelance writing gained traction. Clients recommended me. The tech support gig offered increased hours at higher pay. Though stressful, these improvements lightened the crushing burden of attorney costs. I converted the old guest room into a bright play space for Layla, painting murals of clouds and forests. Each brushstroke symbolized reclaiming the house from Lucy's negativity. When the official divorce decree arrived, I felt an odd mix of relief and sadness. We'd started with vows of forever, yet ended in a courtroom battle. Still, I refused to dwell on regrets. Life continued. I began noticing Teresa's impact more profoundly. She went beyond nanny duties, organizing doctor appointments, tidying clutter, cooking simple meals. Her calm presence felt like a balm. Sometimes, I found myself sharing stories about my past, my dreams of writing a novel or traveling someday. Teresa listened attentively, offering gentle humor that eased my guarded heart. One evening, after Layla was asleep, we lingered in the living room. A thunderstorm rumbled outside. We spoke softly about heartbreak and hope. Her empathy enveloped me, eroding my skepticism about love. In that quiet moment, I realized I could trust again. Our connection blossomed naturally, though neither of us rushed. We remained mindful of Layla's emotional environment. If Lucy's bitterness had taught me anything, it was that genuine care required patience and respect. Over time, Teresa and I developed small routines, shared breakfasts, playful banter while folding laundry, movie nights after Layla's bedtime. Slowly, walls built to guard against betrayal began to crumble. Lucy's hateful words still echoed sometimes, but they rang hollow. Teresa's kindness proved them false. There was no grand confession, just a mutual understanding that we were forging something meaningful. Each day, Layla sensed the warmth growing. Lucy, meanwhile, faded into a background of intermittent drama. She'd resurface sporadically with accusations or financial complaints, but her threats lost power. Legally, the custody agreement held firm. Emotionally, I'd detached from her toxicity. Whenever she hurled insults, claiming I'd turned Layla against her, I reminded myself that I owed her nothing, no excuses, no apology. My only obligation was to protect our daughter. On difficult days, I recited Lucy's tormenting phrase, "No woman would ever want you," to remind myself how far I'd come. The best revenge, I realized, was living well, no matter how desperately she tried to tear me down. Months passed, and Layla began to babble words like Daddy and Tisa, her version of Teresa's name. The sight of our little girl toddling around, giggling at silly faces, filled me with gratitude. Lucy's presence continued dwindling. She showed up once, unexpectedly, for a supervised visit, visibly irritated when Layla reached for me instead of her. The tension crackled, but I refused to be baited. Afterward, Teresa and I took Layla to the park, letting the tension evaporate in the sunshine. I watched them chase bubbles, marveling at the quiet joy that had replaced the years of chaos and pain. My writing career unexpectedly flourished. A major magazine commissioned a series of articles, and I poured myself into every piece, channeling my experiences into words. Late nights felt less lonely, each keystroke reminding me I was rebuilding a life on my own terms. Teresa dozed on the couch sometimes, waiting for me to finish, her soft breathing a gentle reassurance. The house felt alive, no longer haunted by Lucy's criticisms. Occasionally, I'd catch Lucy's social media updates through mutual friends, photos of her partying, complaints about her struggles. I felt neither sympathy nor malice. I'd already taken back my power. As legal finalities solidified, I recognized my transformation. I was no longer the anxious husband, bending over backward for someone who belittled me. I was a devoted father, a professional writer, a man learning to open his heart again. Strangely, I felt thankful for Lucy's cruelty. It had forced me to grow. My father once told me challenges reveal character. Indeed, Lucy's betrayal sparked a fierce drive to protect Layla and myself. Love was meant to nurture, not destroy. That truth guided me forward, overshadowing any lingering bitterness. My revenge had never been about crushing Lucy. It was about liberating myself. One quiet evening, Teresa and I put Layla to bed, then lingered over dinner. Candlelight flickered across her gentle smile as we traded stories about childhood. The conversation drifted, comfortable and warm. After clearing dishes, I found her standing by the window, gazing at the moonlit yard. I joined her, heart pounding with gratitude that I'd found genuine connection after so much heartbreak. We kissed, softly at first, then with a tenderness that brought tears to my eyes. Lucy's hateful words dissolved entirely in that moment. I wasn't unloved, I was cherished. And I finally believed I deserved it. We proceeded slowly, mindful of boundaries and respectful of our roles. Teresa continued as Layla's nanny, but our bond transcended any job description. Some nights, she'd stay over, the three of us forming a peaceful little unit. I marveled at how drastically life had changed. A year earlier, I was drowning in Lucy's scorn, convinced I was worthless. Now, I witnessed my child thriving, heard laughter echoing through halls once filled with arguments. Lucy's phone calls still occurred, typically to reschedule or complain. I never let them linger in my mind. My focus remained on our present, not her past. Soon, the house felt different, infused with optimism. I rearranged furniture, painted walls, and tossed out relics of my failed marriage. Even the bedroom carried new energy, free from memories of Lucy's contempt. Teresa helped me donate Lucy's abandoned clothes, a symbolic purge of negativity. Watching the empty closet fill gradually with children's items and a few of Teresa's belongings felt oddly comforting. A weight lifted off my chest. This wasn't just a rebound romance or a replacement, it was a genuine partnership forged through understanding and shared responsibility. My sweet revenge remained crystal clear, building a future Lucy foresaw impossible. Letters from Lucy's lawyer dwindled. She fell behind on her child support obligations, vanished for weeks at a time, then re-emerged with fresh excuses. The court took note, gradually reducing her visitation rights. I discovered Lucy had latched onto yet another relationship, repeating old patterns. Each revelation only solidified my relief at escaping her grasp. Meanwhile, Teresa and I discussed formalizing our relationship, though we were in no rush. Our priority was Layla's happiness. Any leftover resentment I once felt toward Lucy paled in comparison to the gratitude I felt now. I had escaped her cruelty and was thriving. One afternoon, Lucy called unexpectedly, claiming she'd changed and wanted a chance to be a proper mother. My stomach tightened, wary of her manipulations. I agreed to a supervised visit, more for Layla's sake than Lucy's. As expected, Lucy arrived late, rummaging for sympathy with half-hearted apologies. She tried to console Layla, but the child clung to me. An awkward tension permeated the air. Eventually, Lucy asked if we could talk privately. She offered no apology for her past cruelty, only vague promises. I rejected them politely but firmly. I owed her nothing. My boundaries, once shattered, were now unbreakable. That night, I held Layla close, realizing how far we'd come. My mind flashed back to Father's Day, when Lucy's sneer cut me deeply. I recalled how she said no one would ever want me, but Lucy's prophecy had failed spectacularly. I had unconditional love from my daughter, growing affection with Teresa, and renewed self-respect. In refusing to forgive Lucy, I'd safeguarded my dignity. Some may criticize that stance, but betrayal so profound leaves permanent scars. My revenge was a life beyond her disdain, filled with authentic connections. I watched Layla sleep, thankful Lucy's bitterness no longer defined our world. Morning broke gently, sunlight filtering through curtains as Teresa arrived with fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Layla toddled toward her, arms raised, laughing. I scooped our daughter up, my heart swelling with gratitude. Together, we shared breakfast, the warmth of a real family enveloping us. In that instant, the final threads of Lucy's shadow unraveled. I remembered her derision, her abandonment, and her fruitless attempts to sabotage me. None of it mattered now. Our home was peaceful, my career steady, and Teresa's companionship genuine. My triumph wasn't Lucy's downfall, it was my renewal. I'd found my worth at last.